Good people don't want harm done to bad people who've repented. I've had a lot of struggles with the vision in the Bible of forgiving everyone even while they're hurting you or they're doing horrible deeds and things like that. And I tend to see that in an awkward way because, well, maybe not an awkward way, but awkward for me was simply that if they're harming someone, I believe they should be punished. If they're unrepentive, they don't want to right their wrongs and they don't see themselves as guilty, then clearly they should be punished. They're doing harm. They're doing wrong. They should be punished. They should be thrown into prison, taken away from the general public so they don't harm the public anymore. So that's how I view that. But I do not view the repented person in the same manner. They have to really repent, which means it has to be extremely obvious in their apology or in their actions and how they fix the whole situation up and right the wrongs they've done. But a good mature person will not want a person who repents harmed and will not treat them badly because there's no point to treating them badly. I mean, your ego gets a boost from yelling at them, but they don't heal, and you don't heal. You actually get worse from hurting or yelling at someone who was trying to say, sorry, I made a mistake, or trying to fix something up. So, good people are good people and have good souls. They do lose their temper, they do make mistakes. No one is perfect. But it's like that woman I had that argument all night. She tormented me over my children. She was making jokes and being very, very nasty. And at the very end of a whole entire night of it, and I never liked this woman ever anyway. So at the end of the night, she said to me, when she was leaving, probably about 11, half past 11 at night, she made one last snarky, nasty remark. And I put up with everything she said all night without losing my temper in front of a lot of people. And I kind of like hope this is kind of like, God is slow to anger. And at the very end, she said something really nasty to me, and that was it. She flicked the final switch that set me back at her. And I basically told her what she was, and she had a bad reputation, slept with a lot of men, done a lot of bad things, with a druggie, an alcoholic, you know, a lot of bad things. And so I just basically just listed off what everyone already knew about her. And she was probably in denial about it while she was doing it. And she stood there while I was talking. I noticed as I was venting my anger, tears were coming out of her eyes. And I stood there and I watched her, and the more I spoke, the more I regretted every single word I was saying. And I was kind of like letting a night's frustration out. And then when I finally finished, I stared at her and she was standing there in tears, and I apologized. I said, look, I'm sorry. I said, I shouldn't have said all that and I shouldn't have done that. And she said to me, which was extremely humble for her, considering how she spoke to me all that night, she said, no, it's all right. Well, everything you said was true. And she left, but I have never ever felt good about that moment. And owning the moment, being responsible, realizing the harm I'd done and the wrong I'd done, it did shut her up. She's never ever treated me like that ever again. I've seen her a few times, and her husband, and she's never treated me like that again. But uh, I still don't feel good about it. It's one of those. It's let your conscience be your guide. my conscience says, when people come to you with an apology, be nice. There was a woman who came to me with an apology years ago, and she cried, and she'd been working for these people who were very nasty behind my back, reporting to them all about my life. And when she finally realized she was being used and abused, she was horrified at her part in attacking me from behind. And these people were using the information she was given them to twist and mix with lies to in an institution so everyone would hate me. And it worked beautifully. They all did. And in doing that, she came and told me. I already had a fair idea she was doing it because her parents told me. And I wasn't happy about it, of course. It's your human right not to be happy about such things. And I wasn't happy about them. But when she came and told me, she stood in front of me in tears, and we ended up hugging. And she said she'd never ever do it again, and she'd never go near those people ever again. And she said she'd learned a lesson. So I suppose often in our lives, one of the greatest gifts you can give a person who's hurting you is the lesson, and they'll never do it again. So the hurt she caused me, and some of those people still haven't forgiven me for stuff I never did. The hurt that she did, she had done to me, taught her never to do it again to someone else. And maybe sometime in the future she might have was going to get fooled by someone to hurt her future husband or her children or something like that. So there's lessons to be learned in even the hardest things. But for me, the lesson with that woman was the one who was talking bad about me was simply, it was horrible to be hurt like that. And then there was my girlfriend years ago, who was having affairs, and I went to her door to have it out with her, and I was telling myself I was going to punch her. I kept saying, I was so hurt. I was in tears. I was crying all the way there. I was cycling, and I'd been told earlier that afternoon by a best friend, say like about 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This was like 8 o'clock at night. I'd been fuming all day. I was hurt. I'd been crying a lot. To give you an example how it affected me, after her and I split up, I was drunk for possibly 2 weeks. And then I had a shower. I was so depressed. And I had a shower, a bath. And I conked out in the bath and went under the water. And I woke up under the water and realised I was drowning. And I realised I had to get off the alcohol. I was so devastated because she was supposed to be my future. And I'd been marveling at the chance we were going to have beautiful little kids, and all sorts of things like that. And all the plans were in my head, but she wanted other fun and me at the same time. So I got to her door, and I actually clenched my fist, and she opened the door, and she stood there and she looked at me, and as soon as she saw me, she knew something was wrong. And I raised my fist, and from what I can remember, I said, I know what you've been doing, and I vowed to her friend not to tell where I got the information from. And so I didn't say where I got the information from, but I named some of the guys she'd slept with, and she started crying or something. And as soon as I saw her start crying, I just put my fist down and ended up having a cup of coffee with her. But I made it clear to her that night that we were through for good. And the following Monday, this was on a Friday night, and the following Monday, she turned up at my place where I was staying and wanted to get back together. And I ended up standing outside and yelling at her and saying, "Go away, go away." And so she left and said, "Don't come back." And then about 6 months later, she tried to come back. See, some people realize you're the person they either love or they really, really enjoy being with because you treat them so well, like a gentleman. And once they realize they've mucked that up, they still want to be treated like a gentleman, but they go by a gentleman. But they're going to all these young guys and stuff who want to party and do drugs or whatever, and they realize that even after they've been with them for 6 months, they're not a gentleman. The real self starts coming through. Everyone fakes it at the beginning of a relationship. All the guys pretend to be gentlemen. All the females pretend to be wholesome ladies, and they're all, faking it just to get into the relationship. And so, and another woman stepped in and said, "Don't you ever go near him again." And so, the point here I'm getting at is, when you're a good person and you've got a good heart, you could even think of doing bad things, but you won't do them. And even if you justifiably, it would seem as justice, for all the pain and the anguish and the stuff you've gone through, you still won't do it. And so what I'm trying to say is explain to people that you may have grown up with people around you who were dishonest, who would hit you if you apologise to them, or would treat you badly, or publicly shame you, etc., etc., etc. When you haven't experienced a real gentleman or a real lady, then you would find out that when you apologise or you explain your situation to that person, they'll treat you with the utmost respect, even if you've hurt them for years. I think part of it is for me, would be to find out what happened, what went wrong, why you treated me like that, and then find out, well, where do you want to go from here? Are you going to do anything about this, or are you just going to come up and apologise, and things like that. So a lot of people apologise to people who are cruel, and then they get a lesson saying, everyone I apologise is going to treat me bad. But other people, I'm just trying to make you aware that all people aren't cut from the same cloth. And some people will not treat you bad like other people have. And you may have so much guilt in your mind from hurting somebody that you have a huge anxiety and fear about going to see that person. I mean, look what you've done. And so you are telling yourself that it's all going to go wrong and whatever, but if the person, the person is a good person, and the person has, how it says in the Bible, you can't get to heaven unless you're the kingdom of heaven unless you're innocent like a child. Well, if that person's like that and doesn't strut around and try to be mean or anything, then you're looking at a good person. They're not going to treat you bad. So I'm just trying to make people aware that the good people do exist though. They are out there, and if you face them, and you're humble, genuinely humble, there's some people I wouldn't trust unless I saw change, but there are other people, like with the character assassination, the woman who did the character assassination, her husband, two of her daughters I wouldn't trust. The daughter, Renee, I would trust. The people who are part of it in a narcissistic way, I wouldn't trust. So if they ever came to me and said, let's do a deal, I'd be like, no. Or I'd be like, I'll listen. And as long as I believed it was on the level, I'd be interested. But some people you just know are so narcissistic, they can't be unnarcissistic. When they say, if the person who hurt you can't heal you, what that means is if a narcissistic person hurt you and then they promise to heal you, they're still narcissistic in their mind. So the only healing they will do of you is to their gain, not yours. And their gain would be keeping you weak, on drugs, submissive, and in their control, even though to you it may look like you're absolutely free. It's all about control with them, and they can't heal you, and they will not heal you. That's their plan. Their plan is never to heal you. An honest person, as you say, innocent enough to get into heaven, would never hurt you, and would be looking to help you heal. You've done them harm, yes, but they'd be looking to you healing for what you've done, as long as you absolutely regret it, and helping you, right, if you go to them and say, look, I'm going to fix this up, what I've done to you, and a good soul would say, okay, I'll help you. And they'll say, what, really? And say, yes, I'll stand at your side and I'll help you. I'm not here to punish you for punishing me. You don't replace evil for evil. This is about a person coming who's done you evil, coming to you and saying, I've changed my ways, repented. Then you take their evil and replace it with good, with love, with friendship, with compassion, with understanding that the only reason they did it was a mistake, obviously, and other people's influence. And the reason they know this is they wouldn't come to you in an apology if they were naturally narcissistic and nasty. See, coming to you with an apology means they've changed their ways, they've changed their mind, they've realized their mistake. They realized what they did to you was wrong and a mistake. Most people, narcissistic people, when they do narcissistic things, they don't recognize it. They think it's for the good, for you, for them, for whatever. They play denial and play games in the head and attack you. The people who truly regret what they have done, they're coming to you with repentance in their heart. And they're asking for your forgiveness and your love and your help to help them get through it. So not only have they've done you wrong, you're now going to very graciously, very humbly, with love in your heart and compassion for the pain that they're going through, you're going to help them through it and help them right the wrongs and stand by their side, as a true friend would do. So this is what I'm trying to say. There are good people out there, not like the bad people you've done. And if you really do wrong to them accidentally or intentionally, you realize what you did was wrong, you've turned over a new leaf, you want to help them and you want to fix the problem. A mature person would see that as a wonderful, grand gesture. And they would love to have you in their life, to be your friend, and to trust you. It's all about giving second chances. It's like the guy with the plane. The stunt pilot went up in a propeller plane, and a young guy was fueling the planes, and he put aircraft fuel in the petrol-driven plane. And when the stunt pilot was up in the air, the plane engine cut out because it had the wrong fuel in it, and he had to crash land it. And he walked straight across the field, straight into the guy who fueled the plane. He knew exactly what had happened while he was up there. And the plane engine cut out, and it was an old biplane. And he walked up to the young guy, and the guy stood there like this, terrified, and he had tears in his eyes. He was like, oh my gosh, I nearly killed a famous stunt pilot. And when he got up to him, he walked up to him, and he put his arm around his shoulders, and he said, you put the wrong fuel in. And the guy says, yes. And he said, put his arm around his shoulder, and he walked away with him, and he said, walked him back to the fueling area, and he says, from now on, I'm going to get you to fuel all my planes. And he said something along the lines, I know you realize your mistake, and I know you're going to do your research in the future, and you're going to make sure this never happens again. And the young guy would never do. He did a perfect job from that day on, and he was given a second chance. And we need that second chance. I mean, how can we ask the world to be a better place? How can we ask it to be full of love if we don't give people a second chance? And all the people I've wanted to hurt that I regretted, like with that lady telling her what I thought of her at the door, um, she did kind of gain from it, because I think her life greatly quietened down after that too. But I I gained from it too, and the great hurt that I'd done to her, and that's why I can't do it to anyone now, because I realized what I'd done to her, and it was just like I felt horrible. And it was kind of weird because I was playing it through my head and realizing every word I was saying was true about her. And she'd been saying bad things about me all night that weren't true. But her reaction, the pain I'd caused, and the misery, that was what I regretted. And once a pastor came to my door with another pastor, they had doctrine issues, and they said I had doctrine issues. They, I ended up yelling at them at the door, and after I yelled at them, oh no, I didn't yell at them at the door. I yelled at them at the church. Yeah, I yelled at them at the church. And when they came to the door, I apologized for yelling, but I didn't apologize for my words. So I said, look, I'm really sorry if I lose my temper. And they self-righteously said yes, and they expected the rest. And then I just said, but I don't take back the words. The words were, what I said was true. And they were horrified. And they very cruelly said, the God you think you know isn't God at all, meaning I was following Satan. So that was pretty harsh. It's a hard life, and I'm walking alongside you during this life. And we need to make it easier for each other so that it can be a better life for us all. So we're walking side by side through life, through this journey we call life. We make mistakes, we do silly things, we say silly things. We need to forgive, we need to hug, we need to get closer to each other and talk to each other and find out each other's story. Explain, have the opportunity to say our piece and listen to the other person and hear them say their piece. But if we offend them, if we hurt them, if we do anything to harm them when they're trying to make peace, we just do evil for evil. And that's what we need to not do. When we replace what they've done to us with love and compassion and understanding and feeling and standing by them, we replace evil for good, and that evil's gone for the rest of our lives, and it will be passed down to children, and the story will be told amongst relations and friends of how great evil was rid of and exchanged for love and compassion and understanding, and in the end, a genuine friendship. Remember, there are good people out there. Study the person you need to go and talk to, and if the person has a really good character, then, like innocent as a child, then that's lovely, and that person will listen to you and treat you well. God bless you.